Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning. So can we start now, or I will wait for few minutes again?
Sir, I think we can start. It's already
Oh,
48 have joined. So.
okay. So I think all of you have already familiar with the few programming languages, right? C and the other programming languages. And
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
how many language you know?
So I know three or four.
Three or four. What are the languages?
So C, C++, Python, JavaScript.
Just okay, fine.
Sir, I think most of us only know C because it's the only language taught in the class.
The semester, the first year, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other response from the other people?
Sir,
Sir, I
I
know
know.
C. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Mampu, carry on.
Java and C. Sir, I know Java.
Okay.
Sir, I know C, C++, Python, and HTML.
Yes, fine. So
Sir,
what is the
HTML, CSS and is considerable.
yeah? Which language?
HTML, CSS are those languages considerable?
Why not? Actually, those are also languages. No problem. Even 10 or 15 years back, when there is not so much platforms or the inbuilt platform are not available, then all the websites and web pages are developed by this HTML and CSS and the JavaScript. And
Okay.
nowadays the scenario has been changed, and lots of tools are automated tools are available by which we can easily implement the on the website. But when the concept of the web programming was started, then that time period the HTML was only the de facto standard language for the web development. Okay. But
Okay.
even today also, the when we are developing some uh, web pages using the some tool, drag and drop tools based software, the underlying layer the HTML is also working. But actually what happens when we are drag and we are using the tools and we are dragging some tools and just putting the in the web page and we are getting the effect, the that part is automatically generated by some other languages. So output is actually the HTML pages, but actually some other programming language is taking care regarding the generation of the HTML pages. Okay, but still the HTML was working. Okay, and
Okay, sir.
if you want to start the any web programming language, every course will start with the basic few idea of
Yes.
the HTML.
Yeah, in
Then
that case, I also know C, C++, HTML, and CSS because they were markup language. That's why I asked you.
yeah. Actually, in the computer science or in the software industry, you have the defined category of programming languages, and few programming languages are very much domain specific in nature. That means only particular area in that particular area you can program in that using that language. Okay. For example, I think some of you have already familiar with the MATLAB environment. MATLAB.
Not yet, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, MATLAB.
My
I think. Yeah. Signal processing lab, I think. Okay, anyway, so MATLAB is also very useful programming language for the academics and research purpose also. It is not too much attractive language for the industry, but from when the your research and the academics is concerned, the MATLAB is a very good programming language and for the very good for the simulation purpose. So this is a one kind of language. Either you are coming from the civil engineering domain, or you are coming from the electronics engineering or electrical engineering, whatever maybe your domain, you can program with the in your area using the MATLAB programming. Okay, even you are from the you are want to do the AI, so that is
Yes, sir.
another
In this semester, sir, I think our MATLAB class will be hard for control system.
Yeah, that is that is another part, the control system. Okay. So actually, in the second year, I am also taking one lab, that is the IT workshop lab for the CSC. So in that lab, I generally teach the basic idea of the MATLAB programming and the how to we can develop some of the machine learning application using the MATLAB programming. So actually, why I am talking about all these things, because when we are talking about the any programming, computer programming languages, so it has a wide range of application. Okay. So when we are going to start the new programming languages, we have to first keep in mind we'll try to learn the basic syntax of the programming language. Once we have got the idea of this particular the syntax of the programming language, then we can move to the programming with we will try to solve some basic problem with using the programming language. Then if it is completed, then we can complete the first level of the learning. Okay. Then we have to move towards the solve the more complex problem. So if you remember the previous the first year C lab and also the theory session, then you can remember we have done the very basic programming, right? Like the matrix multiplication, then string manipulation program, and like the before different searching and sorting algorithm. You have studied the sorting and searching algorithm, bubble sort, insertion
Yes,
sort.
sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
sir.
So yeah. So actually those problems are very basic problems, and it is very initial idea. So why? But you can ask one question. Then since it is a very basic problem, then why we are interested so much in the first year to solve all these kind of problems? Why not? We are not interested to study the very complex problem and we try to solve it. Okay. So, do you have any answer for this question? From your side, whatever is coming in your mind, you can share, no problem. Why
Sir,
not?
the question was not clear. Can you repeat once?
Yeah. So why not? Though I have already told that sorting algorithm, searching algorithm, the matrix multiplication problem, the matrix addition, subtraction, all kind of problems are very basic problem, right? In nature. So why not in the first year we'll study the complex program, complex problem. Why we are interested to study the very basic problem?
So I think because the more complex problems are sought to be based on the fundamental aspects of the programming, as always. So if we start from complex problem and we don't know basic sorting algorithms, then we won't be able to implement them.
Any other the idea? Any other?
Actually, in the first year, many of the students don't even know the structure of programming.
Yes, sir.
So, if one doesn't know what is the structure of programming, how can they do programming? And after that, complex programming is something that needs to have that needs the basic ideas to get to be cleared. If basic ideas won't be cleared, then we can't move to complex programming. And first thing we must know the structure first, then basic, then complex. That's why.
Yeah, actually right. The thing is, when if we so our basically we have the two things in the first year. One is the understanding the problem, and second one how we can solve the problem using the programming language. And in our case, we use the C language. If you go back to the 15 years back, then the same concept was there, but they started with the basic or Fortran language. Okay. And after that, the C was introduced, C was coming to the picture, and C was very popular. That's why they introduced the C in the initial level of the in the first year. And even you can expect that after a 5 or 10 years after from this time period, even in the first year, the Python can be directly introduced. It may be possible. Python or maybe other programming language can be directly introduced. Now it may be possible. Now the thing is, whenever you are going to study one new language, since you have already studied the one language, so the idea is you have to figure out what is the basic structure, what the basic feature of the programming language. So in any programming language, if you think it clearly, then you will see there should be some keywords, some looping code. So we need to figure out, we need to solve some problem. We have to repeat the same statement again and again. That's why we have to work with the loop. And in the C language, you have the for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So immediately, so other programming language has also some same kind of loop concept. And second one is the sequence in the decision making, if else condition, switch case condition. So these are the very basic things available in all the programming languages, right? Now the thing is, why we are interested to study the different programming languages? Obviously, because all the, if you see from, if you move from the C language to C++, C++ to Java, Java to Python, Python to Smalltalk, so each and every programming language has the same basic idea. Keywords, some based on the keywords you can write down the program, and using the to write down the program you have to utilize the keywords, the loop concept, decision making concept, and some structure or module and function concept. Am I right? So these are the very common feature from each one, any language, any programming language, right? Then why we are interested? The thing is, the answer is, if we see the timeline of the computer programming languages as well as the computer programming concept with along with the software industry, then we'll see the, like any other industry, like the automobile industry or garments industry or any other industry. So software industry has also gone through huge changes from beginning to present day. Why? At the initial stage of the software industry, suppose you consider the first generation of the programming languages. In the generally, we can categorize the total timeline of the programming languages in the four category, in the five category. So many of the books you will get the four category, but for our in understanding purpose, we will consider as a five category or five generation of the programming languages, right? So in the first generation of the programming language, what was the utility? It was very simple approach. So you have to, you need to write down the program. That program will work on some data. And the program was not written in a high level language. It was written in a low level language. That's it. That is called the machine level language. Okay. Now that was the huge advantage. When you are writing the program in machine level language, it will very easy to understand for the machine. It is easy to interpretation to the machine. What he or she has to do, the program, the computer has to do. That instruction is given in terms of machine level language. So that's why it is very easy to understand to the machine that what I am going to do. But what is the limitation of the first generation programming languages? The limitation was when you are writing the program in a machine level programming languages, the most of the all the instruction should be given in top form of 0 and 1. So when you are writing the instruction in the 0 and 1 format, then it is very difficult to design the program when the problem type of the problem complexity is increased. Suppose you are going to solve some addition program. Okay. So in case of addition program, it is very easy to, you have to work with the, you have to perform the addition of two numbers. Suppose your instruction, you are like the just a minute. Suppose, so is it visible to you? The screen is visible to you? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, suppose you want to add two number 20 and 30, and now you have the instruction that is the 001. Okay, so 001 is a one instruction. Okay, so when the program, the computer will understand, get the instruction like the 20, 30 and 001, it will immediately understand that it is the, so I am talking about the first generation language. Okay, so it will understand that, okay, I have to perform the addition operation. So that instruction all will be fetched from the our instruction set that is available to the microprocessor, and it will execute the instruction. Now, what is the advantage is the code can be directly executed by the computer. So there is no such kind of the linker, loader, compiler, interpreter. That type of software application are not needed at all. That is the huge advantage. Secondly, the execution is fast and efficient. So you can easily understand when you are removing the compilation part, linking, loading, all this part. So it will very easy to execute. It will take the very less time to execute. Okay. So this is the advantage. And if we take the another opposite side of the advantage, that is the disadvantage, code is difficult to write. Obviously, if you consider only the problem is like the addition of two numbers or subtraction or multiplication, then you can work with the machine level instruction directly. But when your code is very complex and your problem is very complex, for example, suppose you want to search, and you want to search an element from the list, right? From the list. Then that item, that program is not very easy to implement in the directly in the machine level instruction. Okay. So code is difficult to understand by the other people, because once you are writing in the programming instruction level, the machine level instruction, what is actually written in the code, that is very difficult to understand, because all instruction we are providing through some GUN1 format. Is it clear? Third one is the code is difficult to maintain. That is also the big problem. So we will discuss the point in a more detail regarding the maintenance of the software. Okay. Obviously, the error detection and correction will be very difficult. Now, after that, a new concept. So this is the first generation programming language. Now, come to the second generation programming language. I think you have already encountered, you have done the microprocessor lab. Have you done
Yes.
the? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Suppose I want to add two numbers in the microprocessor, the assembly level programming language. What will be the instruction?
So first we will load the HL pair LXI at the address where we are storing the data.
Yeah. So for sake of simplicity, I'm just writing here like the 20 and 30. Here, it is not the actual the syntax, but our discussion purpose, I'm writing in this manner. Okay. So suppose I want to add the two numbers, so I'm not writing in the direct. So add, to perform the add instruction, some instruction is already written. But what is the advantage? Advantage is that it is quite more sophisticated than the machine level programming language, right? But at the same time, what is the can you share the one, at least one disadvantage of the assembly level programming language? At least one idea. What is the limitation? Not the disadvantage. What is the limitation of the assembly level programming language?
Sir, it's machine dependent.
Yeah, that is very important. It is machine dependent. It is machine dependent. So, programmer must have a good knowledge of the hardware internal architecture of the CPU. Okay. Suppose you are writing the Python programming or C programming, you don't. It is expected that you will not know too much about the architecture of the computer system. You have to what you have to do. You have to install a compiler for your operating system. The compiler will convert the code. Your compiler will generate the machine code from your programming, your high-level programming language, right? So that is the limitation of the one of the limitation of the assembly level programming language. So code cannot be directly executed by the computer. So you need the assembler, right? Am I right? To execute
Yes,
the
sir.
to execute the assembly level programming language, you need the assembler. So, but in the case of machine level, the first generation, there is no such. The module is necessary. Now come to the third generation programming language. It is also called high level programming languages. Okay. So in a third level programming languages, third generation programming languages, the code is machine independent. That is very important part. Code is machine independent. It is easy to learn and use the language. Easy to document and understand the code. Then what is the limitation? Code may not be optimized. The code is less efficient. It is difficult to write a code that controls the CPU, memory, and the register. So actually, when we okay, suppose this is the machine level language, and this is the high level language. So when move from the left hand side to right hand side, it is more efficient to the programmer. Okay. But when you come from the right hand side to left hand side, it is more efficient to the computer system. Okay. So when we are immediately moving from the machine level language to high level language, you need the defined kind of like the assembler, linker, loader, compiler. Because what is the utility of linker and loader? Because we see, suppose when executing your, can you remember your C program? So you are writing the what is the first statement in your C program? Hash include.
stdio.h.
Okay, fine. So what is the utility of the std? So actually, the what is written in the stdio.h, you don't know. Maximum time you don't know. But when you have started your first journey in the programming language, you know that you have to include it, right? Because it will provide the some library function. Am I right? It will provide the library function.
Yes.
So actually, basically, what is the utility of the library function? Those library function is already written in the your language library. So whenever you need, when you are writing the program, you can concentrate on your problem and you can write the instruction, and whatever basic functionality you need, that will be provided by the library, compiler library, the language library. So that is nothing new in the case of C language. If you move to the C++, what is the library in that case? IOStream, right?
IOStream.
So if you move to the Java language, you have the package also. in Python you have the module and package, right? So each and every so, and even you don't, so they can provide you the basic ID, the facility of the defined function and the modules. But when you are compiling the program, when you are writing the program, generally what do? You have the IDE, integrated development environment, in which you can write the program, you can compile the program, you can divide, you can execute, you can check the output, all these things. But actually that IDE environment also taking the responsibility to link the your library function with your program, your written program, and provide the object code, all these things. It will generate the object code, all these things. So when all these items are coming to the picture, immediately the program, the execution time of the program will be slowed down. Okay. So that's why. So if we move from the left hand side to right hand side, it will be not too much efficient. But why we even when it is not efficient, then why we are using it? Because it will help us to solve the large complex problem, real life problem. But that cannot be solved very easily using the machine level instruction. Okay. Now come to the fourth generation language. The fourth generation language are more sophisticated than the third generation language, like the C. C also actually these last three generation are quite overlap to each other. So SQL, structured query language. If you have idea about the database management system, then you can remember. Have you idea about the DBMS? Yeah. So
Actually, in school level, we learned that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you see, so in that case, we're not interested to solve the matrix multiplication program or searching or sorting, but actually we are also searching and sorting in the your database, but in a defined form. So if you structured query language, if you see the structured query language, SQL, the idea is to manage the database, right? In a one single sentence, we can say it is not programming for, it is not programming language, scientific programming language. Rather, it is a targeted to design to manipulate, manage, and insert defined perform the defined operation on the database management database. So database will contain the huge amount of data, and to work on that data, to manipulate the data, you need a specific language. I already told now that every programming language has a specific region, a specific area to execute, specific area to for its application. Okay, like a structured query language. Okay, so generally the people will not tell you that write a SQL program to to concatenate the two string, but they will give you the different idea. They will ask you to write a SQL query to concatenate the two table or to find out the list of employee based on some criteria. Okay, understand the difference. So in that case, the projection is more higher level, not the lower level. Okay, so we are working with the diagonal table. And now to the fifth generation programming language. So most of the time the Python, all the other fifth generation programming languages, Lisp is also, there is certain kind of artificial intelligence programming language, and like the Lisp, then multi-agent system, you can develop the defined knowledge-based system like the DBMS system. Okay, the knowledge-based management system is also available. Okay, so you can provide the knowledge instead of data query, you can knowledge query. Okay, that means you run some query and it will give some information based on the processing the knowledge, rather than the processing the simple data. it will provide the knowledge. Okay, so actually here I shortly want to describe the thing, that is the this is called the DIKW pyramid. Okay, DIKW model. So do you have any idea what is the DIKW model?
No, sir.
Yeah, actually, I generally explain the things because it is very relevant to for understanding the working, the area of the computer, the programming. So D for data, I for information, K for knowledge, and W for wisdom. Okay. So actually, when DMS is working in the lower level, DIKW, so lower level, only manipulating the data. But what in case of you see, the different kind of management system software like railway management system, student management system, like that. So that is called information management system software. And now the K, where the interest is to extract some knowledge from that part, from your data and the information. And wisdom is something more higher version of the knowledge. Okay, I can take the one real life example. Suppose in the first, suppose I give the some random data here, 20, 30, 40, 60, like that. Like that. Okay. So, what do you say? Is it data or information, or it is knowledge?
data.
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 Yeah. Basically, interpreting the 20, 30, 40, and 60, we can only see the number only number, right? But if I specify the some unit, suppose the 20 millimeter or 30 millimeter, or like that, then and we can specify the rainfall level. Okay, 20, 30, 40, 60. Okay, then it is information. Okay, some information, because we are providing some context, because the 20, 30, 40, and 60, if we change the context, then meaning will be different. Suppose I want to specify, suppose you are working in the pipe industry, the industry which is generating some pipe, the polythene pipe. So they are generating some in the assembly line. They are generating some pipe, and which size is 20 meter, 30 meter, 40 meters, and 60 meter. Are you getting my point? The
Yes,
context,
sir.
yeah, context is changed. The information is also changed. Okay. Now, come to the again previous example, the rainfall. Now, if I observe the rainfall, is this kind of rainfall is available in each and every year, and you are accessing, you are following the data for 5 years, or last 5 years, or last 10 years, then you can extract some knowledge that during this period of time in the year, the rainfall will be follow this pattern, and this will give you the knowledge. But if you see very clearly, then you will see the difference. You have the same data, but interpretation will be different. The perspective will be different. Okay. So we have the many applications like the astronomical image. There are lots of the health informatics. That we work in the knowledge based information system, knowledge manipulation system. Okay, knowledge
Where
qualification.
is the wisdom then in this criteria?
Yeah.
What is the role of wisdom? Where can we see the wisdom?
Yeah, it is a very nice question. But you think about it. What will be the wisdom? Yeah, in this context, wisdom is more higher than the than the knowledge. Suppose I can give you the. I am not specifying in this context. I'm just give you the one example. Suppose you take the quotation from some famous person. Suppose the Kalam, the famous quotation. I am not a handsome person, but I have two hands to help you. It is a famous quotation for the Kalam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you interpret is linguistic, if you inter, if your interpretation is based on the some linguistic meaning, that's the in Bengali is called the akhorik orthe, the linguistic manner. Then what will be the information? But actually, the higher meaning is totally different. I am not a handsome person, but I have two hands to help you. So this is considered this is a kind of wisdom. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir. Trying to understand.
Yeah. Actually, the our present computer system, the even the 90s towards 90s and 2000, our all the DBMS system all basically the based on the first two level, the data and the information. And now we are trying to make the computer intelligent and they can want to generate this particular knowledge. And again, we are not go to the up to this level. It will take the another 10 20 to 25 years to reach that kind of level. Even if we go to that level, then this is the beginning of end of human civilization, maybe, because the computer, the machine will take the responsibility to control our human society. Okay. So actually, this the hierarchy is very important to understand that not only in the computer system but how the world is running. Okay. So you talk with the different people, you try to understand in which level they are talking. Either they are talking about only the data or information. Suppose you are talking with the quiz master, so mainly they are providing a huge information in a diverse field. But if obviously it is very difficult to figure out a straight line between the information and knowledge. But obviously, quite it is embedded when you are generating the knowledge. Obviously, it will be some underlying layer. It will be you have to interpret the information and data. Okay. You know the term that data mining.
Yes, sir.
Data mining. So, any idea
No,
about the
sir.
data mining? Just yeah, data mining. So, data mining basically the idea to find out the
Patterns.
finding out the pattern, and obviously there should be some statistical modeling is necessary, some programming is necessary, but finally you have to generate the particular pattern from the underlying data. And if you find out able to find out the the pattern, then you can work with the pattern. Nowadays, even from the apart from the data mining, some subfield is coming to the picture because the data mining field is quite mature enough. So that's why some subdomain are coming to the picture, like image mining. So image is also kind of data, right? So basically, we work with the four kind of data: the text, audio, image, and the video. if you see, all your computer data will be all either this kind of data. Either you are working the text data, or audio data, or image or video data. Right? So you are interpreting the particular the image, and you want to draw some pattern, a huge number of image. Okay. That's why, and when the big data is concerned, because our database system that before the 2010 or 2005, the database is quite fine, good enough to manage our day-to-day data. But when the different social media coming to the picture, like the Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these social media coming to the picture, the amount of data generated every day is huge. So that case, your classical database management system is not suitable to handle those data. That's why the defined programming, the structure, the defined programming environment is coming to the picture to handle the data, big data, because the basically big data is based on the 4V: the volume of the data, versatility of the data, velocity of the data, and variation. Velocity means in which way. Suppose you are generating the in which speed the data is generating. In every day. Suppose you consider a Diwali night or any puja time. So if you consider there is a huge spike, suppose all the Indians will share some minimum 4 or 5 images. Okay, can you imagine what will be the total data amount of data will be generated on that particular day? Nowadays, each and everyone is carrying a good quality mobile phone. The mobile phone has a good quality of camera. The image quality will be very high. So since the image quality is very high, your mobile, your picture, the image photo size will be large. So a single person is generating suppose posting an image or 5 MB. So 20 MB image. For a single person, he will post a 4 images of 5 MB each to 20 MB. Now you consider suppose the 1 crore people will share the 4 image. And you just imagine what will be the amount of data. So that is the big data. So that big data cannot be handled with the simple or classical DBMS, RDBMS, or DBMS, object-oriented DBMS. It cannot handle. So actually, I told that it was started to when the social media is coming to the picture. It is only for the. I have taken the example because it will be easy to understand for your side. But actually, apart from this, there are lots of research area are also present where you need to process a huge amount of data. One area I already mentioned, the astronomical image processing area, where another one is the climate change, the climate data, because when you are considering the climate data, suppose the 3 or 4 months back, the year's data, the weather forecasting data. So they are handling the huge amount of data with the 50, 100 number of control variables, parameters. Okay. So all of you know the God particle experiment, Large Hadron Collider grid. 6 or 7 years back, the huge in the famous experiment. Can you remember?
Yes, sir.
I think that time you are in school, right? So LHC, LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, that is a huge project. So those data basically they use the storage of all the different computers all over the world, and they use in a different layered architecture, the tier 2, 0, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Okay, so India has also contributed in that program, and specifically in they contributed from the VCC Kolkata. VCC Kolkata, yeah.
এই যে সমুদ্রের নিচে না উপরে কন্টিনেন্টের সাথে কানেক্ট করা ওই কেবিলের কথাগুলো বলছেন?
No, no, actually the God particle experiment. God particle experiment. You just search in the internet LHC project. LHC project. Okay. God particle.
এই গড পার্টিকেল মানে নিউট্রনও যে
Right.
আবিষ্কার করেছে।
So actually, that experiment, what is the why I'm talking all this thing, because in that experiment, each and every time when they are performing the experiment, each and every second the experiment was generating the huge amount of data in a petabyte range. Okay, petabyte, more than terabyte. So that's why to store store the data for as a whole for the experiment was not possible in the single storage device. That's why they have taken the help of the distributed system. So instead of storing in a data in a single computer system, they have distributed the data throughout the world with a defined computer system, and they connected each other through the grid computing system. Okay, and that project was called the LHC grid. And that in that case the VCC Kolkata was the just a minute. This one. So they have also provided their storage purpose, storage to LAC project. LAC project. Okay. So you could search what is the total amount of data they are generating of all this thing. So immediately, so based on a defined concept, so in that case, you are generating also the big data that I told. It is not only applicable for your only the social media application. I have taken the example for your understanding purpose. But there are lots of research applications you have to work with this kind of the big data application. And if you consider even the coronavirus, spread over the coronavirus, and how suppose you want to take the information, store the information of the people who have completed the vaccination process, and what is the effect after vaccination is done, what will be the health effect on after the vaccination. So now for the future use, if you want to store the data, so obviously, even if you consider the India only, suppose I consider the 100 crore people has completed the vaccination, then this information will only for the India to store the information of the 100 crore people, it will take a huge amount of space. So basically, you see, one thing we can derive from our discussion purpose, we have the problem to solve. We have the problem to solve, right? And to solve the problem, you need some method. You need some method. you need some method. What is the formal name of that method? That is called the algorithm. Okay, because you have to, your problem may be a small scale problem, your problem may be very large scale problem, but when you are going to solve the problem, you need some specific set of rules, set of statements to solve the problem, and that statement should be written in the form of algorithm. Okay, so it is algorithm or flowchart. So if your problem is very much small, you can use the flowchart, and flowchart will give you the pictorial representation of how you can solve the problem and what will be the steps to solve the problem. Now, algorithm will do the same thing, but algorithm is also capable to handle the large scale problem. Okay, we can generally say it, but use later time we'll see there are a lot of applications where it is more easy to provide the algorithm rather than provide the flowchart rather than the algorithm. Suppose you want to develop a large problem, solve a large complex problem. Now, for the understanding purpose, basic understanding purpose, you can provide the outline of your solving approach through the flowchart. But if you want to develop a fine details of your solving for steps, then you should provide the algorithm. Okay. So whenever you are going to solve the problem, either you provide the algorithm or flowchart. Okay. Now I have one question. The, is it algorithm or flowchart? Both the algorithm and the program, both are same or different? What is your opinion? The algorithm and the program is same or different? Have you got my question? Algorithm and the program are same or different?
So it's same.
Any other opinion?
The program is written following the algorithmic steps.
Sir, different, sir.
Algorithm is the process how to solve that problem.
Actually, it is different.
Actually, sir, flowchart is somewhat graphical representation, or you can say pictorial representation.
Actually, I am asking regarding the between the algorithm and the program, not the flowchart. Algorithm and program.
Okay.
So algorithm are the steps or the process to solve that particular program or the problem.
Yeah. Actually, the algorithm and program are different. In the sense, algorithm is not the language dependent. Basically, the algorithm has no relation with the language. But maybe in some later time we encountered many situations where we can violate this statement also. But for this moment, and why we are violating, that we will also discuss. But for this moment, the algorithm and program is not same thing. The algorithm is independent of your programming language. Suppose you are solving the searching and the sorting problem using the bubble sort algorithm. Okay. So what is the steps to solve the bubble sort algorithm? So what is the first step? So you have to use the two loops, right? We will perform the comparison operation, and after the one pass is completed, the largest number will come into the right hand side.
Yes, sir.
That's why it is called bubble sort, right? That's why it is called the bubble. Okay. Now, the loop comparison, the swapping of comparison, and the swapping operation. These are the three basic statement, the tasks of the bubble sort algorithm, right? Right. So, loop, decision making, and the swapping operation. So that can be provided by any programming language. Either if you move the C++, if you move the C, Java, Python. Right? So when you are best following the bubble sort algorithm, when you are writing the program in the C language, it is the C program for the bubble sort. When you are writing in the Python language, it is a Python program for the bubble sort. But in the same thing, same problem, the problem is again the sorting problem. This is the method 1. That is the method 1. That is the bubble sort. Now you have the method, another method. That is the insertion sort. Your problem is same, sorting problem. Now you have changed the algorithm. And you will develop you can write down the C program, C++ program, Python program. Okay. So algorithm will give you the idea, give you the blueprint how to solve the problem. But when that problem is implemented in the computer, going to solve using the computer system, that means you need to instruct the computer to execute the statements as specified by the algorithm. But algorithm is written in a most of the time in the English like language. Okay, English like language. So that language cannot be directly input to the computer system. So you need to convert that program, that algorithm into some program, right? And that's why you need the programming language. Clear? So you have the problem. You have to develop the algorithm. Once the algorithm is developed, you can write the program. Now you have to take the decision in which language you need the algorithm you will implement. Okay. So actually you see the how the bubble sort algorithm is executing the statements that are not depending on the C language or C++ or Java. Is it clear to you? The difference between the algorithm and the program?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Or any doubt, then I will repeat it again. Okay.
It's clear, sir.
Okay. So you have to take decision regarding the programming language. And now I already told that each and every generation of programming language has some limitation and some advantage, right? And also I have also discussed that depend on the application, you have to choose the programming language. Because if you want to database, if you want to manipulate the database, you have to use a structure query manipulation language. Okay. If you want to work with only the web programming, then you have to use the JavaScript, CSS like that. Okay. If you want to implement simple the program, then you can use the C++, right? So based on that, even if you want to work with the bioinformatics domain, then you have to work the Python in the actually 10 years back. Python is a very good programming language for the bioinformatics application. There is very specific reason that regular expression was there. That's why that is called domain specific language, DSL. Okay. Hmm. Now we are in the position, we have the algorithm, we have the problem, we have the algorithm, we have the program, fine. Now second, the another concept will come into the picture, that is called the, nowadays even the SQL is very old concept. SQL is very old concept. Now now presently the industry is also moving for the no use SQL. No SQL. Now come to the picture of programming paradigm. Programming right? Programming paradigms. So we know the algorithm, the concept of algorithm and program. Now, in which way we will write down our program? What will be the approach to write down the program? First one is monolithic program. Okay. Monolithic programming approach. So actually monolithic programming, you can consider the assembly level programming with a monolithic programming approach. So here our objective is only solve the problem. So you will store the data and will write a sequence of instructions to solve the to work on the data. So why data? Actually you see, when you need some actually in problem, you have the algorithm to solve the problem, right? Then you should take some input in the algorithm and you will produce some output. And when you come to the program, the program will take some input and it will produce the output. That is the concept. So input data. So this program is sequence of statements, and data is also there. So this data means the input data. So this is the, in a monolithic approach, your set of instruction, your sequence of instruction will execute on the data and it will produce the output. That is the simple monolithic approach. The monolithic programming language is only applicable when your problem is very small and the instruction code is very also small number of instruction code. Okay, 10 to 20 like that. That's fine. Now, after that, the procedural programming was introduced. The procedural programming. So basically, the first generation and second generation programming language was based on the monolithic programming. Okay. Second one is the procedural programming language. Programming. So here, basically the Fortran and COBOL was used, a popular procedural-oriented programming language. So here, the previous case, the emphasis on the to solve the problem. Here, the more sophisticated approach was taken towards the development of the algorithm. Okay. So algorithm is more structured now. Here the main problem was the procedure-oriented programming language or the reusability of the code. Reusability of the code is very important concept for the software engineering point of view. So once your code is available, once your code is developed, it will be good for the industry, it's good for the development team to reuse the code in many times. But if your programming approach is like that, every time you have to do the same thing again and again. If you see the same kind of problem, but you have to rewrite the code again and again, that is not beneficial, not cost effective. So that is the one limitation, important limitation of the procedural-oriented programming language. So global data is shared. Okay, so defined process will share the same global data. Global data means the here the only single copy of the data will be kept into the picture in the environment, and there though that data will be shared by all the programs. And now the third one, that is called the structured oriented programming concept. The structured programming concept the main focus on the to develop the module. Okay, the development of the module will help you to manage the data, your program more efficient way. And the main objective of the module was to assign a specific task to that particular module. And say for example, suppose you are developing an application where you have to work with the different student data. If you have to work with the different student data, student management system software work with this different kind of data. Okay. Now, student data will be shared by the defined defined section of your software. The student data will be shared towards the library system, library module, towards the admission module, towards the exam cell, towards the department. Okay, the same student data. Okay. But now if we consider the monolithic approach, then all the program will be keep in a one section, all the different program, and your data will be another section. And those your program will access the data. But what happened in the structured programming language? Obviously, the procedure-oriented programming language, our objective was to develop a single procedure for each and every section, right? Rather than the keeping all in a one basket. Without keeping in one single basket, we try to keep in a different basket. That is the procedure-oriented programming language. And now the structure-oriented programming language, we try to structure each and every basket more efficiently. So only those portion of the data will be available to the one structure, the one module that will be assigned to that module. But other, if it is not essential to access the data by the other module, then we don't allow it like that. So each and everyone will send the one copy, the same different copy. So that is the advantage. Each module has its own local data. Each module performs a specific task. A structured program takes less time to return than other programs because each and every module has assigned a particular task. So when you are developing the module, you only focus on to implement the task. And suppose your module, you are developing the one module M, so you only know the what will be my input data and what will be my output data. Because you will take some input. Suppose you want to sort you have to search a, say for example, you will take the list of students and corresponding number, and you have to produce the sorted order. And you have to arrange all the number of all the students name as per the rank. So this is only your task of your module. So you will take the one table. The table will contain your student name along with roll number, registration number, all these things, and the semester marks, same marks. This is the input. Okay. And what will be the output? Rank, student, list. This is the output. Okay. So this is the approach was the modular, the structured oriented programming language. At the same time, it has also some limitation. The structured programming is not data centered. Global data is shared and therefore may got modified. Anyone can modify the data. So in the structured programming language, the structured oriented programming concept, the main focus on the develop the function and this data. So our objective was to develop the function only. Okay. So structured, and those functions will be based on the tasks of the module. And second one is this very important limitation of the structured programming concept. That is the data is not your program is not data centered. Why it is called data centered? I will come to the point. Data centered. Okay, this is very important point. Data centered. Why it is not? Because data centered means when you are working, you see each and every module is working on the data. So you have to, if it is it possible to make some container in which we will put your necessary data. Suppose it is possible to design a container like this one, where you can put your data and your function. You wait 1 minute, okay? Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
আমাদের সেকেন্ড হাফে কোনো ক্লাস নেই তো?
দুটো
হ্যাঁ
দশ
স্যার,
মিনিট।
আমার একটা ল্যাব আছে দুটো 10
ল্যাব হবে না দাদি?
হ্যাঁ
introduction
আছে,
হবে
লিখতে
বলছে।
আছে।
কোন স্যারে? কোন স্যারে?
Sir, grooming.
ও গ্রুমিং, তো তাহলে ঠিক আছে। So is it possible to develop a one container in which we can keep both data and a function? And that is the called object-oriented approach. Okay. So here in the object-oriented approach, the limitation of not data-centric of the structured programming, that will be fully resolved, almost resolved. Okay, it is data-centric. And divide the object, divide the program as per the object, not the function. Okay. Secondly, the function which will operate on the data, they will keep in the same place. Same place in the means the same container. Same place in the not, they will not share the same address space. They will keep in the same. That is called the class. It is called the class. Okay? And that is the beginning of the object-oriented concept. And most of the present software is developed based on the object-oriented concept. Okay, so the basic idea of the object-oriented concept is the class and the object. Okay, so here we'll need some function, we'll develop function, and function will need what will, it will take some input data, and whatever input data is needed, those data will be keep in the same place, same container, and as a whole the container is called the class. It is not the formal definition at all of the class and object. It is the only the understanding of the understanding part. And what is the difference between class and the object? Class means, suppose if I say the human, suppose I am asking you to figure out, to describe a human, then what will be the description of a human body? 2 ear, 2 eye, 2 legs, 2 hands, like that. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. But if I want to say to figure out a particular human, then what you will do? You will point out a, suppose in your class you will try to point out a particular student. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Yes. That student will share all the necessary characteristics of the human.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
that student will be considered as an object, and the human will be considered as a class. Okay. So class is a termlet, and when you are assigning some value on that class data, then it will convert it to object. So if I say student, so it is a class. Student is a class. Student class will contain, I will discuss in the next day what will be the possible attribute of the student class. And suppose I am specifying a particular student class. Suppose the student class name is a, you share your name, any of you share your name.
Mumpy.
Okay, mom. So when I write the Mumpy, that is the object. That is object. Okay. But when you consider student, so student is the class. So this is all about the problem, algorithm, generation of the programming language, and what is the limitation and the advantages. Next one is the programming paradigms. Okay. So now presently we focus on, there are some other different paradigms is also present, but we will not go to the details of those paradigms because the large logic oriented programming concept, rule oriented, constant oriented programming concept, but those things are not quite relevant to our discussion purpose. So we can strict ourselves up to the object oriented programming. So monolithic, procedural, structure oriented, structured, and the object program oriented program. Now, so can we continue the class or I should stop here? अच्छा ठीक है अच्छा ठीक है ठीक है actually if I start now then again I will take the 30 minutes more, that's why I am asking. Okay, no problem. Yeah, bolo.
স্যার বলছি কালকে ক্লাস আছে আপনার 2:10 থেকে, এবার আমাদের না ফার্স্ট হাফে কোনো ক্লাস নেই, আপনি কি সকালে নিয়ে নিতে পারবেন ক্লাসটা?
কালকে ক্লাসটা সেরকম হলে আমি দেখছি, কালকে হয়তো হবে না, কালকে আমি থাকছি না হয়তো, তো নেক্সট ডে হয়তো আমি ওটাকে কম্বাইন করে দেবো কখনো একটা, ঠিক আছে?
আচ্ছা, ও আচ্ছা, তার মানে স্যার কালকে 2:10-এও হবে না ক্লাস?
না না 2 10 হবে না, আগে থাকছে না। যদি না থাকে আমি বলে দেবো, আমি না থাকার সময় 90% আগে আমি বাড়িতে থাকছি না, বাড়িতে থাকলে তো আমি ক্লাস নিয়ে নিতাম, করলে নিয়ে যাবো আর কি। ঠিক আছে
স্যার যদি তাহলে আপনি থাকেন তাহলে কি সকালে নিতে পারবেন?
থাকলে সকালে নিয়ে নেবো, অসুবিধা নেই, থাকলে সকালে নিয়ে নেবো।
আচ্ছা স্যার, তাহলে আপনি কি আমাকে সকালে জানাবেন নাকি আজকে রাতের মধ্যে জানিয়ে দিতে পারবেন?
সকালে জানিয়ে দেবো, সকালে জানিয়ে দেবো।
আচ্ছা স্যার, ঠিক আছে, আপনি আমাদের তাহলে 10টা থেকে নিয়ে নিতে পারেন, আমাদের কিছু নেই।
ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে,
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে।
ওকে। সো হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার আপনি কি নোটস দেবেন না কিছু বই প্রেফার করবেন না ভালো হতো?
বই রেফার করে দাও, আমি যেগুলো পড়াবো সেগুলো বই রেফার করে দেবো, সেখান থেকে পেয়ে যাবে, অসুবিধা কিছু নেই। ঠিক আছে, নোট কিছু আলাদা করে দেবো না। ঠিক আছে, এইগুলো তুমি মোটামুটি নোট করছো তো যেগুলো পড়াচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
ঠিক আছে। So today we are concluding our discussion up to this point, that just we have introduced the concept of class and object. So next day we'll start the another section, that is the software engineering part. Actually you see, and if you see your syllabus, as per your syllabus, can you see the syllabus here?
Yes.
Yeah, the fundamental principle of object-oriented programming. So actually this is a beginning class, it is totally outside your syllabus. I'm just introduced the concept of the object-oriented programming. So now we'll go to the details of the object-oriented programming, as well as in which level we'll introduce the object-oriented coding, the programming. Because first we have to understand what is the structure, why you are coming to the object-oriented programming. Okay, then, and what will be the advantage of object-oriented programming, then how we can implement the object-oriented programming when we are developing the software. So that's why in the next day we'll discuss the software development life cycle, and in which particular phase you can utilize the object-oriented programming. And then in the next level we'll go to the details of the object-oriented programming concept, and as well as that will be based on the Python, because object-oriented can be also interpreted using the C++ or Java also, but here we will interpret with the help of Python program. Okay, so and actually I have started on the very basic level. So is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So you just wait 1 minute, I am sending the link, attendance link. Okay.
So in this same, will we be learning the object-oriented programming just as a theoretical subject, or we will be doing some hands-on programming during the learning?
Actually, yeah. See, actually, obviously, when you are learning the programming language, there should be some lab session. But since it is a incorporated as a the open electives, so there is no lab option. But what actually I will do, when the Python after the theory part is over, when I will start the Python program, then I will discuss just like the lab session, because I will execute the Python program. In the first I will show you some sample Python program, how to solve it and how to write the Python program. Then I will give you some assignment, then that you can do that time, or you can also solve later, you can send to me. Okay, but I will just execute as a lab session.
Sir, it will be also helpful if you give some problems coding in Python that we can
Yes.
solve in our home and increase our skills.
That will. First, I generally I will try to take the class in the lab-oriented manner. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Because you see, you have already studied the more than one programming language. So in that case, there is no need to explain what is the utility of loop, what will be the utility of if else condition, all these things.
Yes.
Yeah. We try to solve.
No, but so, many of the students might not know the structure of Python. So just the structure of Python, if you let us know, that would be helpful enough.
Yeah. Surely, I will. That's why I'm telling. I will not too much
We
emphasis
just,
on the
yes,
basic
sir. We
programming.
just want to know the syntaxes of Python. Like for
Yeah.
loops, I think the syntax is some different.
Yeah,
Okay.
that part I will obviously I will discuss that part. But concept of the loop is not will be
Yes,
not
sir.
discussed.
Yes, yes, definitely. Sir.